Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Monday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Why we desperately need to restore the Snyderverse. For me now, I'm waking up every day and seeing what's going on in this new version of the DCEU. But today we're going to read a couple of articles from Screen Rant, and this is how I'm going to prove to you, not that you don't already know this, why we're desperately in need to restore the Snyderverse. Why director James Gunn didn't want Joker in the Suicide Squad. This should be amusing, right? Jared Leto's Joker didn't appear in the Suicide Squad, and now writer-director James Gunn explains why he left Batman's villain out of the movie by Cooper Hood of Screen Rant. The Suicide Squad director James Gunn explains why he didn't want to include Joker. The clown prince of crime joined the DC Extended Universe back in 2016, where they cut his scenes to fucking shreds when Jared Leto appeared in David Ayer's Suicide Squad. It wasn't David Ayer's Suicide Squad, it was kind of a version, cut down, fucked up version of David's movie, not even David's movie. Despite minimal screen time, the look of Leto's Joker became quite divisive. Yes, because it was creative and interesting, and today's audiences don't like that. As did Ayer's movie. It wasn't Ayer's movie. This led Warner Brothers and DC Films to move in a different direction with the franchise's future, which included bringing Gunn into the fold for a sequel reboot. Due to the response to Jared Leto's Joker, his DCEU future became incredibly murky. Audiences last saw him in the main DCEU continuity, freeing Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie, from prison at the end of Suicide Squad. But Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn confirmed the couple's breakup. There were reports that WB and DC were interested in a Joker solo movie starring Leto even after Joaquin Phoenix. But that project hasn't gained any traction. Some hope that Joker would once again be in the Suicide Squad, but James Gunn left him out of the movie. Yes, they cut him out of Birds of Prey for very different reasons, because they wanted to make a girls together feminist movie, let's blame men for all the ills of the fucking world. So imagine, right, if you don't even have Black Mask, or Black Mask and the Joker are in Birds of Prey together, and Harley's got to fight him with her new friends, the Birds of Prey. Awesome or what? But no, not these creatively bankrupt bums. It's been months since the Suicide Squad's release, and Gunn's DCEU movie received great reviews. In a new interview with Desday Hollywood via Comic Book, the writer-director again addressed the decision to leave Joker out of the movie. He cites the excellent work others have done in adapting the Joker and wanting to elevate obscure characters as reasons why the Suicide Squad didn't feature the Joker. Read his full quote below. There's all sorts of other characters I'm interested in doing. Joker isn't really one of them. What kind of storyteller are you, James? What kind of creative are you, James? I like him, right? I respect him. But what kind of writer-director doesn't want to deal with the Joker? That's fascinating, isn't it? I'll explain the situation from my point of view after the article. He's been done well so many times by so many people. I am much more interested in taking characters who haven't fully had their shot, or people who I connect with. Yeah, because if you stick with the ones who haven't had their shots, Harley Quinn has already had 3 fucking shots, mate. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. James Gunn's explanation for why Joker isn't in the Suicide Squad makes perfect sense. No, Cooper. No, Cooper, it doesn't. But you still want access, and I get it. He either would have had to potentially reinvent Jared Leto's Joker. Why? Or recast him for the DCEU's future. And either option would still draw comparisons to other versions of Joker. Yes, iconic characters draw comparisons to other versions, just like James Bond, but they're not going to stop doing James Bond, right? While Gunn could have helped create another great iteration of Batman's iconic villain, or used the one we've already got, he instead had much more freedom, focusing on lesser known characters as a result. Harley Quinn, the likes of Peacemaker, John Cena, Bloodsport, Idris Elba, Ratcatcher 2, Daniela Melchior, King Shark, Sylvester Stallone, and Polka Dot Man, David Dasmalkian, became popular characters in pop culture. Or did they? I'm not saying I don't like those characterizations and didn't enjoy them in the movie. But are they all of a sudden that popular? Will we remember them in 10, 15 years' time? Nah, they didn't make that bigger impression. And King Shark, who is actually an iconic DC character and sometimes villain, he just made him into a bad fucking joke, didn't he? I enjoyed him, he entertained me, Sly did great, the CGI is beautiful for him, but that's not the reason I got excited King Shark was going to be in this movie. Oh well. Based on Gunn's thoughts about Joker, fans shouldn't expect him to appear in future DC projects he's involved with either. Joker wouldn't fit in with Peacemaker, why not? Based on what is known about the HBO Max DC series, WB and DC haven't confirmed that Gunn will return to direct a sequel to Suicide Squad. If he does a sequel, it's on HBO Max. His movie flopped. Simple as that. But it is expected to happen eventually. When it does, fans probably shouldn't hold out hope for a Joker appearance there either. Well, thank you, Cooper, for this article, because if you didn't pre-warn me about that, I would think Jared Leto's Joker was going to be in a James Gunn movie or streaming TV show. Of course not. We know. We understand. We get it. So let me tell you why Gunn doesn't like dealing with iconic characters but likes building unknown ones up and making them popular. Because it's pressure. That's why he turned down Superman. He doesn't want the pressure of doing these iconic characters. Something I'll say about Zack Snyder, not only did he take Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman, but he had the fucking balls and guts to do something different with them, right? And deconstruct them, then attempt to reconstruct them again. Unfortunately, that total reconstruction isn't possible right now because these bums drove him off the project. But James Gunn doesn't want to do Joker because, look, how can I put this? James Gunn is just another extreme leftist who doesn't like straight white males, right? So we can't have an alpha straight white male being glorified in a film. That's why Peacemaker and Bloodsport are basically him taking the piss out of alpha straight white males. Do you get it yet? Do you get what these people are like? These people are bums. Gunn is an entertaining creative. I like him. I'm not here to destroy James Gunn or to shoot venom about James Gunn. But he said basically the Joker doesn't do it for him. I mean, if you're a DC fan or a nerd, like he tries to put out that he's a nerd that creates, right? Why wouldn't you be interested in the Joker? And this is the DCEU without Snyder, everyone. The DCEU with Snyder is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, The Flash. And we know he was going to introduce Green Lantern as well. And God knows by the end of Justice League 3, who else, what other metahumans were going to be involved. Do you understand yet? Zack Snyder was going to build up a proper hardcore Justice League, a DC extended universe, and bums like James Gunn. And I know I've just said I respect him, and I do, but he is a bum for talking this way. How can the Joker not mean anything to you, right? And it's really funny, like in David Ayer's, half David Ayer's movie, in the theatrical version of Suicide Squad, we get a really good, accurate, from the animation, from what Bruce Timm did of Harley Quinn. But now, since Birds of Prey and his Suicide Squad movie, we've got Saint Harley. Saint Harley isn't the villainous that's the Joker's girlfriend anymore. No, we're going towards the Poison Ivy stuff because now she's going to become Saint Harley and have a relationship and probably get a mortgage. And they'll probably adopt a couple of kids, have a couple of cats and a couple of fucking dogs, right? This is where we are in entertainment today, everyone, right? With people like these, right? Thinking they're more superior than creatives like Snyder. And you're not. Let's be clear. David's Suicide Squad, or what's kind of David's Suicide Squad, made more money than James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Zack's movies made more money, even if you put the pandemic in there as well. Because James Gunn's Suicide Squad didn't fail because of the pandemic. Shall I tell you why? Shall I tell you why? Because movies on day and date like Black Widow have done well. Put Spider-Man No Way Home on day and date and see how well it still does in movie theatres. It was no mistake, right? It's no mistake here that people are just not interested in the Suicide Squad IP, and it wasn't that interesting. But let's go to an Elseworld scenario, and James Gunn does put Jared's Joker in there. Do you think that movie's still going to flop in movie theatres? Of course not. And this is reason one why we need to restore the Snyderverse. Someone who's going to bring things in to please the audience. Beautiful visuals, beautiful storytelling, compelling, high concept art. That's what we left. That's what we've lost with Zack Snyder. But has Zack Snyder really left? I mean, they're using his VFX people on the Flash movie. Can the Flash movie restore the Snyderverse instead of delete it? That's an interesting theory, isn't it now? Peacemaker clip. John Cena's supervillain is not a fan of Aquaman. Reason number 2 why we desperately need to restore the Snyderverse. A new clip from Peacemaker reveals that John Cena's anti-hero Christopher Smith isn't exactly a fan of fellow DCEU character Aquaman Jason Momoa by Anna Damarog of Screen Rant. A new promotional clip for James Gunn's Peacemaker show reveals John Cena's Christopher Smith isn't fond of Jason Momoa's Aquaman. The upcoming HBO Max series is nearing its premiere in January 2022, with Warner Bros. Ramping up their marketing efforts for the project. In the latest Peacemaker footage, the titular villain shares his candid thoughts about the King of Atlantis. In Peacemaker, Smith reunites with advanced research group Uniting Superhumans Argus, personnel after the events of the Suicide Squad, where he previously debuted. Known for being willing to take extreme measures to preserve peace, Smith was revealed to be Amanda Waller's Viola Davis planted operative in Task Force X. Peacemaker was hell-bent on ensuring that details of Project Starfish wouldn't be publicised, so he went ahead and killed Rick Flag. One of the most despicable decisions. Gunn actually brought in David's versions of the Suicide Squad, and apart from saying Harley, of course, because she's a woman, he killed them off and uplifted his own characters. This pitted him against his own team, with Bloodsport Idris Elba seeming to fatally shoot him. Smith was thought dead, but miraculously survived, as revealed in the film's post-credits. The events of Peacemaker will primarily take place after Task Force X's mission in Corto Maltese, although Gunn has said that its storytelling will jump back and forth in time to explore the anti-hero's origins. The latest marketing clip for Peacemaker via Binge Watch This reveals the villain having a conversation with the hospital janitor. He claims himself to be a hero, but the cleaner does not believe him and then says that Smith isn't famous but Aquaman is. This irks Smith emphatically, with him cursing Aquaman. Watch the clip below. Go and check it out on YouTube if you want. I don't want a copyright strike. There are a couple of takeaways from the clip. Firstly, Peacemaker is fully convinced that he's a hero, despite initially being in prison. He's convinced that what he did in Corto Maltese was the right thing. This effectively makes him a compelling character, since he's not just a straight-up villain. No, he's not there to be a compelling character. He's there to display toxic masculinity. Yes, that's why Bloodsport and Peacemaker were there in the beginning. To make fun of us, alpha males. Isn't it a shame that Hollywood has become so toxic? It also allows the show to easily redeem him. Secondly, basically, from an alpha male, he's going to become a beta male, which means he's redeemed, right? Anyway, redeem him. Secondly, this confirms people within the DCEU are well aware of who Aquaman is. Really? You think? Momoa's superhero character has technically only factored in 2 films, Justice League and Aquaman. While he was featured in Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, that was merely a cameo. So it's interesting that the hospital janitor has knowledge of him. What? What? He's famous! Jesus Christ, in the Aquaman movie, 2 guys approach him in a fucking bar and want a picture, a selfie with him. What are you talking about? It's possible that the world has found out about him in Atlantis, since he's supposedly popular now. Wasn't he even on the news in the Aquaman film? Jesus Christ, mate. Anna, do your due diligence, sweetheart. Come on, please. Oh no, it's not politically correct to call you sweetheart. Milady. Although, no, because that means I'm calling you me lady, my lady. That doesn't work either, does it? The direct mention of Aquaman in the new Peacemaker clip suggests that the DCEU is embracing the franchise's interconnectedness. Yes, It is. At this point, though, there's no indication that Chris Smith and the King of Atlantis will be crossing paths anytime soon, but if they ever do, it will be fascinating what they will think of each other. In the meantime, they'd have to tread separate paths, with Momoa's hero tackling his own issues in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So, I've displayed this. This is the trial, really. This is the trial against, you know, what they did to Zack Snyder, and what we had was better than what we've got right now. What we're getting, I've always been excited about, but I'm starting to be slightly concerned about it. But this is evidence, you know, I'm putting in the call evidence number 2 for why we desperately need to restore the Snyderverse. There's nothing wrong with interconnectivity, but this is just MCU style interconnectivity. Gunn comes from the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, the Kevin Feige way of thinking about these creative decisions. And it's all funny, oh yeah, Aquaman's this or that, yeah. Oh, Peacemaker's, you know, slandered Aquaman. It's all fun, it's okay. But what would you rather? What was done here, or what Snyder was doing in creating an interconnected universe? Let me remind you, everyone, that Zack Snyder, literally, his films, right? Man of Steel goes on to Batman versus Superman. We see Ben Affleck's Batman's Bruce Wayne's kind of vision, or kind of, I suppose, point of view of the Battle of Metropolis. And it's great. In Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, we start with the death of Superman. But this time we get close-ups on Lois, Batman, and Wonder Woman, aka Diana Prince. We see their reactions to Superman's death. And then we continue with the movie. It's again a different point of view to what we've already seen. There's not an interconnected franchise like that. That's what I want to see from interconnection. That's what I want to see. And it's great. And in fact, if Zack Snyder was still in charge of the DCEU when they were making Aquaman, he was going to have Superman and Batman cameo in that movie. We already know that. We've seen some leaked stuff already. We know that. And they cut that out because they decided, because Justice League flopped, it was the interconnectivity idea that flopped, and not the fact that they basically took away Zack's beautiful film and did Justice League, a piece of shit that should never have been released. That's something you shouldn't even release on YouTube as a joke, let alone globally in movie theatres. Embarrassing. Embarrassing people. They got rid of a high concept visionary, right? It will be like sacking Denis Villeneuve from Dune because there's not enough gags and the lighting's not bright enough, or there's too much sand in it. You know, it's just ridiculous. And so here we are now. So there is an element, I mean, I've been denying this in the past, but there is an element of MCU. I was thinking about the MUFC, my Man United video I'll be doing shortly. You see, my mind's everywhere. But it is very MCU-esque, isn't it? That kind of thing from Peacemaker. And Gunn saying he doesn't want to deal with the Joker. Gunn doesn't want to deal with anything iconic, because as I say, it puts pressure on you. The problem is, when you build these smaller characters up, they become iconic to a point, and then you're under pressure to deliver on them in the next movie. Did Gunn deliver in Guardians 2? Many people don't think so. I don't think the film's a disaster, but many people were disappointed with that film. So really, Gunn, it's interesting really, because people have been looking. James Gunn, after the first Guardians of the Galaxy, was loved so much, but not so much after Guardians 2. And this is interesting because I thought it was a good idea originally when Hamada brought him onto the DCEU. I thought he was ready-made, big box office, $1 billion. I was naive. But the Suicide Squad proves that he doesn't bring big bang bucks to a franchise. Because if that's the case, why did no one go to watch it in movie theatres? He doesn't. And as I say, there's other movies that have done so well during the pandemic. So there's no excuses. And I've given my reasons why it flopped in movie theatres. The actual IP of the Suicide Squad is not that popular, and people weren't interested in it. And, you know, people want to see the haircut as well. But it proves that James Gunn actually isn't as big a bankable asset as Zack Snyder as well. So It's interesting what happens next year. I'm fascinated because the pandemic isn't going to be an issue. I mean, what's going to happen with Spider-Man No Way Home is going to give people no excuses, because Spider-Man No Way Home is surely going to have the biggest opening of all time, and it's going to make clear $1 billion. Maybe even get to 2. I don't know. I know we're in a pandemic now, but it can happen, believe you me. Of course, if the consumer is pissed off with Spider-Man No Way Home, it's not going to make the money. But I think even if it's shit, it's going to make money. I mean, Homecoming and Far From Home made lots of money, and they're both boring, crappy, shitty movies. So, yeah, I expect that movie to basically put other studios, especially the DCEU, in a very difficult position. Because if any of their films flop in movie theatres next year, there's no excuses, because the journalists and us fans are the consumers. Well, hang on a minute, Spider-Man No Way Home made money within a pandemic. There's no excuse. And I know that Spider-Man No Way Home, there's reasons for its popularity even before people have seen it. Mainly, it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Tobey's villains from, you know, the Sam Raimi. The Sam Raimi version of Spider-Man is the most popular version of Spider-Man. People are excited. I'm sure people want to see Andy Garfield again, but it's really about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He is the Christopher Reeve, really, of live-action Spider-Man. So it's very exciting. I can't wait to see that film, by the way. That's mainstream. So I've given you really 2 good reasons why we need to restore the Snyderverse. And it's because of what James Gunn said about not wanting Joker. It's about this whole Peacemaker thing, you know, calling Aquaman out. As I say, the mainstream audience will gobble it up. But you see, here's the thing. You can't steal Coca-Cola's recipe for Coca-Cola and brand it yourself. You can't steal Feig's recipe for the MCU and stamp it on the DCEU. It's just not going to work. Snyder is more Warner Brothers and the history of Warner Brothers than anything else that's being done right now. Originality, creative freedom, you know, vast, you know, compelling, high concept material. Warner Brothers used to be famous for allowing creatives to do this. And we're changing now. We're all going the MCU direction because it's easy money. But you can't steal the chicken in the bucket recipe. You'll never get it right. Another analogy for you, in Superman 3, when, you know, Gus Gorman tries to create kryptonite, right? What happens? It doesn't kill Superman. It makes him evil. There's a mystery ingredient that he actually compares to chicken in a bucket. That's why I thought of that analogy as well. So there's always a missing ingredient. You can't take that. You can't take what Feig's doing and stamp it on the DCEU and forget about Snyder. It's not gonna work now. It can't work. They tried to do this with Justice League as well, and they're still trying to do it. It's lazy. It's too late. You should have done that from the very beginning. If you allowed Jeff Johns to run this whole franchise from the very beginning with no Snyder, no Nolan, no nothing, nobody would have known any better, and you would have got away with it. It's too late now. You know, this friendly, you know, let's crack a joke just after somebody else has died, the sandwich you take a chomp from and then go on to the next one, and the chewing gum that runs out of flavour quickly, it's not going to work. You didn't do it from the beginning. It's too late. You should have stuck with Snyder at least until he finished his 5-movie arc. And now we are in this franchise just goes from, you know, mess to mess, because at least Snyder's vision had fans. At least it was making a certain amount of money. The thing that made sense was just to get it done. Get it done and move on. But it's very difficult. It's a bit like when you're a YouTuber and you do different types of videos like I'm doing now. People don't really, I mean, you get one type of fan. I've mostly got Snyder and DCEU fans subscribing to me, but I'm trying to do Man United videos and Doctor Who videos. I'm going to stick with them. It's worked to a point, but then, you know, it's difficult to kind of have a mixture of kind of talk about different things, but that's what I'm attempting to do. So this is what they were planning. Originally, Snyder was going to do his arc, and then he was going to move on, do Flashpoint, and someone else was going to come in. But that works way better than what they're attempting to do now. What they're attempting to do next year with Flashpoint is so risky, because the film really has to work. I'm looking forward to Flashpoint. I'm looking forward to all next year's movies. But I still think there's a place, even though the mistakes this studio have made by not allowing Snyder to finish his arc and doing Justice League, that these are supposed to be professional people from the industry with experience. And I hear ordinary fans talking more logic and more sense than these bums. They're bums. They don't know what they're doing. So I hope, for DC live action's sake, not for the studio, but for the fans' sake, that next year works, but we can still restore the Snyderverse and have it in some alternate universe somewhere where we can get on with seeing Zack Snyder's movies. As we already know, and as we keep on discussing, he's now gone. He's now busy. There's complications after complications with this. We've already discussed someone else being Zack's proxy and basically putting on screen what Zack wanted to do, but Zack wouldn't be directing it. That's something a lot of fans are not going to like. But what I will warn you about now, because they fell out and he left, you may have to wait 2 or 3 years until he can do these movies. So you'd have to be patient. Now, I can be patient if it's announced, but then we have to kind of rediscuss about all the hints that Snyder's throwing out. And look, I mean, I've been reading a hell of a lot of theories from people. Comment your theories down below. Why is Zack Snyder suddenly, after all this time, throwing all these hints about his arc, his Justice League movies, about Final Crisis? What's going on? Are these empty, harmless teases? Or is something going on here? I definitely, genuinely believe that there's something going on here. Something is definitely brewing here. And I don't know when we're going to find out what's going on. Is this Snyder fighting again to restore the Snyderverse? There could be that. He could be back in the fight to restore the Snyderverse because he's been very quiet recently. Soon, I mean, I think from April he starts shooting Rebel Moon. That's going to take 6 months. So he's going to be very, very busy next year. So could we get an announcement before he starts shooting? And will he spend his time now and again on Vero actually, you know, teasing us and trying to get those trends to be consistent on Twitter? I mean, we've been trending quite a lot. Restore the Snyderverse has been trending quite a lot on Twitter. So all I can say to you, all of you wonderful, beautiful people who spend all your time doing it, thank you. Because what Zack Snyder created with the DCEU, as I say, was high octane, high concept. It was an adrenaline rush to watch, especially Man of Steel. But all 3 of his movies are so different as well. He's actually using his brain when he's making his films. And this is one of the issues when we talk about Ridley Scott hating on comic book movies, or, you know, what's the other guy? Was it Martin Scorsese? I'm so shit with names, isn't I? Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott hate comic book movies. But I bet you they like the Snyder Cut. I bet you they like Zack's Justice League. Because at least he's trying to say something in all 3 of his movies. And, you know, a lot of people who hated Snyder and hated his DC movies actually loved the Snyder Cut. So there's more support for it now. So it just doesn't make any sense not to restore the Snyderverse. As I say, they've got their plans. It's interesting as well, because the people at Warner Brothers Pictures could all be removed when Zaslav and Discovery come in as well. So they could be living on borrowed time. What happens to their plans then? It's a nuts situation. It's a nuts scenario. Because I think from the moment David Zaslav and Discovery take over, he's going to start shaking the tree. He knows exactly what's going on. He doesn't like how Zack Snyder was treated. He doesn't like what happened with Day and Date. He doesn't like that Hollywood was upset with what Warner Brothers and AT&T did with Day and Date, and how Snyder was treated and how other creators have been treated there. We are getting a brand new, and this is absolutely true, a brand new revolution. David Zaslav believes, and I can tell you this for a fact, to have a functional Warner Brothers, you cannot have what's come out to the public since all the stuff with Justice League, with the Snyder Cut. The public, we know too much about what happened behind the scenes from all of this, and it's just a bad look. So David Zaslav is going to clean up this mess. I would think almost certainly he is going to restore the Snyderverse. He's made so many noises about talking to people at Warner Brothers. more importantly, people who are not at Warner Brothers, I do think David Zaslav and Discovery are going to restore the Snyderverse. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection, and I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye. Oh, don't forget, a little reminder, I am on Vero now and on Twitter at Movies TV Man, so give me a little follow. Until tomorrow, see you soon. Have a great day. I pressed the wrong button. Have a great day.